Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And it is time for another Reviewing Your Music. It's been a while since we did the last episode, so do be patient with me. I did have a past couple of very busy weeks, and unfortunately this last batch of submissions did fall to the wayside a little bit, but I am getting to it now. I do want to quickly mention that I have a West Coast tour coming up this May. Link to tickets and dates down below if you're in California, Seattle, Portland, all those places. Swing by. It's at the start of May. Hope to see you there. Again, tickets down below. And want to mention one more time, because it's been a while since we did an episode of this. This segment is not meant to bully anybody or ruin anybody's day or piss in anybody's cereal. Everybody who submitted their music in this Twitter thread is voluntarily doing so, and they understand that you're going to get my honest and sincere criticism, whether it be positive or whether it be negative. So I'm not, again, trying to attack anybody or be unfair to anybody. If I like your stuff, I like it. If I don't, I don't. All the artists that we're going to be talking about in this segment are linked down below in the description box. So if you do dig on this stuff, or I dig on this stuff, you can listen to it for yourself and follow that artist. Let's go. Scrolling down, I'm scrolling down. Let me see. This guy says, catch a vibe. EKNOWS. And that he wrote this song on a rainy day. Let's see if we get a vibe off this track.
We gotta build a tribe. I'm fighting for peace. All my brothers are fighting to breathe.
Okay, this track I thought was okay. It's vibey. It certainly kind of delivers what it promises. I will say that it's not entirely just simply a vibe, though. It's not just some mind-numbing, hip-hop wallpaper or anything like that. This dude is definitely laying into a lot of social issues on this thing, police brutality, economic struggles of his own, the vibe of the track, the tone of the instrumental, even the kind of somewhat sad and laid-back flow that he's delivering here does have like a very strong J. Cole influence to it. I wouldn't be surprised if this dude is kind of big into J. Cole, or if you yourself are big into J. Cole, you may enjoy what he's doing here. The track doesn't really have that strong of a structure, just kind of a very flaccid, unmemorable hook, but it's a vibe, I guess. It's a vibe. All right, let's keep on moving. Let's keep it moving. Let's see what else is popping up. Let's see what else is popping up. Ooh, let's give this dude some shine. A fellow Anthony over here. I know that's what stopped me in my tracks, but it's what stopped me in my tracks. We share a name, Anthony. You owe this to me. Okay, well there we go. It's serendipitous, I guess. Track 7 by Anthony Pagano, Guitar Wizard. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a try and see what is going on with this dude and his half hoodie.
Picket fence because I never broke her heart.
Okay, all right. I know I'm not even halfway through the track, but this is rough. This is a little rough. You have to retool this groove a little bit, get all the vocals off of it, retool this groove a little bit, retool this instrumental a little bit so that the groove hits a little bit harder and feels as smooth as you are implying it to feel. On top of that, I would highly recommend getting into these vocal harmonies that you have thrown into the track here, which compositionally are not bad, but they need to be EQ'd. They need to be panned, they need to be compressed so that you're not like throwing all these vocal harmonies into the track and then all of a sudden the volume of the song shoots up multiple decibels and then you're making whoever had the song up at a moderate volume deaf because the vocals just kind of entered the chat super aggressively. So there are a lot of technical and functional issues with this track that are so distracting. I can't even really get into the song that deeply, although I will say you know, the lyrics so far about breaking this person's heart and having ambitions of wanting kids and so on and so forth, you know, weren't exactly resonating with me either up until that point. But again, I think a lot of what you're saying and singing could come off a lot better if you're to just kind of like retool these technical issues that we're having with this song over here. Anthony, you know, it's a little rough sort of riding through this track up until this point. But again, that's not to say anything about your musical or your guitar talents or abilities. It's all about really kind of the assembly and the recording and mixing of this track, which a lot of people don't quite understand and appreciate is an art in itself, as essential an art to the world of popular music as singing or learning to play guitar or learning to play drums. So, you know, I do know it is kind of tough for a lot of independent musicians and self-starters out there to get their music out onto the internet because they often have to record and produce it themselves. Look up those online tutorials. Learn about some compression. It's not the worst thing in the world. You can overdo it on compression, you know, loudness war, that whole thing. But, you know, it is your friend if you use it for a force of good instead of a force of evil. And, you know, again, just kind of retool these kind of assembly and mixing issues. And I think you're going to have a much more solid recording on your hands here. All right, going to try this track from an artist who is going by the name of Dictate. Cortex is the name of the cut. He has left the comment 43,453th times a charm. Let's give it a shot. Ba-bam! Okay, damn. This is pretty cool. This is pretty sweet. Shout out to Dictate over here for coming together with this track. I'm liking the marriage of sounds on this song quite a bit. It reminds me a tad of Flume's last record in that you kind of have a crossroads here of some wonky, some EDM, some dubstep, some IDM, all of these underground electronic sounds and styles sort of being given this large scale, very punchy and very lush and deep frequency heavy presentation. The beat progressions on this thing are great. The compositional shifts throughout this piece are winding and engaging and really kind of keep you at the edge of your seat. It is heavy and it's hard hitting, but simultaneously it's kind of strange and atmospheric and mystical and feels like it's coming from another planet. It's kind of alien, yet it's also just very visceral. So overall, yeah, not a whole lot of negative stuff to say about this track or anything. I'm actually probably going to give Dictate over here a follow and try to be on the lookout for more tracks because this was a banger, a very cerebral banger. Moving on, we're moving on, moving on. Hope you enjoy a group by the name of Halogens, NJ, I imagine they're from New Jersey. The Backwoods is the name of this track. Happy Hour looks like it is the name of the project. Let's give it a try and see what's up.
Now I'm thinking in the worst ways. Love say you're singing my songs from your room. All I hear is him calling.
Okay, there are a lot of good things about this track, a lot of good characteristics. It's a pretty straightforward piece of pop rock with a bit of an indie and an emo twist. Some notes that I would make, though, because it is a decent tune. It seems like a professional grade recording. Some recommendations that I would make are that for some reason the production comes off very, very heavy. Almost as if the person who recorded this has maybe a bit more experience with like producing like metal bands or post-hardcore bands or loud rock bands, more experience producing that kind of stuff than this kind of stuff, because the resonance of the bass and guitars and just how punchy and present the drums are throughout this track, it just feels like I'm aesthetically listening more to, again, like a loud rock song than I am like a pretty nice feel-good piece of pop rock, which I think is just maybe a little bit too, you know, inappropriate. You're talking about something that's kind of lighthearted, snappy. Obviously, you know, the vocals are a little sad and everything like that. But still, the tone of the instrumentation, I don't think it's supposed to be this overbearing. You know what I mean? It's not exactly like a super visceral listen or anything like that. So I would find a way to kind of tone the sound of the track down maybe a little bit more in order to gain something that aesthetically I think is a bit more appropriate for the type of song that you're kind of delivering here. The other note that I would make is that your drummer is insane. Like, your drummer is very good, plays very well, very expressive. I would say he plays and embellishes to the point where he kind of almost outshines or overshadows the song. Again, that may also be because of how pumped up the drums are due to the production, due to the recording. Maybe if the sound of the track overall was toned down a bit, maybe then his embellishments wouldn't be as overbearing or wouldn't be so distracting from the song itself. But listen, when you are playing this type of music, this very song tune-centric music, you have to be conscious of the fact that everything that you do as a band member, because you're not in a jazz fusion group, you're not in a metal group, everything you do should serve the tune of the song, and you should be sort of thinking less about what you're going to sound like when the spotlight is on your instrument. And of course, you're playing your instrument, so in your own mind, the spotlight is always on you. But again, it sort of needs to be a little bit more about the song than it is sort of what you are doing individually. And also the vocals, again, it's not a bad tune, and there are some decent vocal passages on the record, but emotionally, you gotta sell this track. Sell this shit. Because while I like the melodies and the lyrics aren't the worst I've ever heard, emotionally the delivery here just fell a little flat. I'm not going to get emotionally invested in this track unless you, as the performer and as the singer, and this is advice for everybody who's recording music, everybody who's putting their own music out there, and usually nobody else, is going to get emotionally invested in what you're recording and what you're performing unless you sound emotionally invested in it. In fact, there are a lot of artists out there who I would argue their music and their songwriting is completely mediocre, but because they're emotionally invested in what they're doing and they sound like they're emotionally invested in what they're doing, their work ends up being pretty compelling. So I would try to be conscious of that as well. So, decent track, link down below like every other song we've talked about here. Let's move on to the next one. All right, this one is from Alex and the Milkshake Boys. Reassuring Pop Song is the name of this one. That's a funny, cheeky, silly title. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a try and see what is going on. Ba-bam. Alex and the Milkshake Boys here, doing a pretty standard power pop tune, a la Weezer on this one. I mean, it's listenable. It's not bad. I guess I just wasn't really all that enamored with the singing, which was also mixed a little roughly. The guitars and the drums sound a little rough too. And this tune, this chord progression, we've heard this before. We've heard this multiple times before. And I'm not exactly sure if Alex and the Milkshake Boys have really kind of put their own spin on it here. You know what I mean? There's not really a lot about this song I feel I can comment on outside of just a severe lack of not originality, but just distinction from most of what we've heard in this genre before. And just generally, again, a kind of rough performance and execution on this one, which I think does prevent the track from reaching its full potential. All right, let's move on to another track. Let's move on to another, what's this? Poke, Mask. Hey, what you think of this? I don't know, Poke. Let's see what I think of this. I think that was a kind of short and sweet piece of synthwave with a very cinematic and atmospheric presentation. Sounded like something you could hear off of a good soundtrack or something. Chord progression was sweet. Maybe the beats overtook the chords and the reverb on the track just a tad too much, and felt like they were really kind of swallowing the song up in not the best way. But overall, I thought it was a pretty cool track that ended too soon, and you should add some more to this. You should add some more to this. You could definitely build on this. So cool sound, cool mix, cool vibe. Wish there was more to it. That's what I think of it. That is literally what I think of this track. Going off on another one. Let's see what else is here. Sleep Deprived with Inkwell, Aliotic, and Not Actually Robin. This is my track for All Nighter Volume 2, a charity event organized by SoundCloud Art by Form. Please consider buying the album since it goes. Okay. All right, let's give this track a shot. DossyX music. Let's see what DossyX is offering on this charity track.
I feel like my thoughts focus in that area when I went to sleep. I feel like...
All right, I'll end there because I feel like I've heard enough. This is a great track. This is really good. I love the spoken word. Very, very hard-hitting, poetic, sad. The pianos hanging in the background of it are incredibly dramatic. The tone of the instrumentals, the melodic leads, some of the rushing electronic chords that pop up later in the track as it kind of grows in volume, feel to me like something out of an anime or an old like RPG soundtrack. And yet there are these elements of kind of Western electronic and EDM music. There's a build-up and almost like a drop at the very end of the song, and it's sort of like an anti-drop because instead of dropping into a beat or like a really hard visceral groove or something like that, it kind of goes right back into the sad and dreary piano-backed spoken word. I love the intensity of the track. I love the progression of it. I love how it builds up. It reminds me quite a bit of this new strain of singers and songwriters who we're seeing out there who are embracing these elements of electronic music in their production and in their work, and not the most mainstream elements of it, but also some underground and more alternative forms of it as well. I'm thinking of people like Billie Eilish as well as James Blake. These people, again, embracing these electronic elements, writing these very sad, dark, very despondent and dreary songs with these elements. To me, this very much inhabits that same artistic space, but I think DossyX very much approached with their own style on this one, and I liked it quite a bit. I think it's even something maybe some emo fans could appreciate too. So hell yeah to this. All right, let's try this last one here. This one is from a group by the name of Halfloves. A Little Lie is the name of the song. It has a piece of interesting cover art over here, and it says, "We're the best band in the world." So as you guys may know, there are actually quite a few bands in the world at this point. And let's see if what the Halfloves are saying here is it actually factual? Is it actual factual? Let's find out. Ba-bam. Okay. It's not bad. It's recorded okay. The tune is very winding and pretty. There are a lot of nice things that I could say about the execution of this track, but look, here's the thing. When I first heard the piano chords on the song, I thought, it's a little Radiohead. It's not bad, but it's a little Radiohead. Typically, a lot of artists out there, given Radiohead's originality and idiosyncrasy, and given their popularity, wouldn't dare just blatantly copy Radiohead. So surely this is kind of going in a different direction. But then the drums and the vocals and the strings came in and everything else came in, and yeah, it just pretty much top down just sounds like a Radiohead song. It just sounds like a Radiohead song. I would actually argue maybe to a point, what this is to Radiohead is kind of what Greta Van Fleet is to Led Zeppelin in a way. It does kind of go that far. If you got Nigel Godrich producing this thing, I think you could probably get it to sound exactly like a Radiohead song. So, I mean, it's cool that obviously the musicians involved in this track have really studied the Radiohead songbook and have kind of learned its intricacies. But I would advocate that, now that you've been able to successfully execute this, you clearly have the basics of what you need to pull a good sounding and a coherent song together. It's time to fly away and kind of kick off the Radiohead training wheels and head out into a direction that does not sound quite as like Radiohead. Hey, they're a great band, and if I had myself to record a music project and a whole album, at some point there would probably be some kind of subconscious Radiohead influence popping up in there somewhere because of how pivotal records like In Rainbows are to me, because of how much I love their latest material as well, A Moon-Shaped Pool. But still, this is maybe just like a little bit too close for comfort for me on this one. But yeah, that has been it. That is the latest segment here of Reviewing Your Music. Thank you to everyone for taking part. Hope you're doing well. Every artist that we have talked about in this segment is linked down below, so you can check their stuff out for yourself. And I will see you in the next one. Over here next to my head is another Reviewing Your Music that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Reviewing Your Music forever.